We didn't prepare for an opening, did we, Murph?
No, not really. We're kind of at that phase in our careers where we're coasting by on like charisma and habit.
Yeah, I think we're phoning it in now. What episode did you think we jumped the shark? If you ask me, it was probably Alice.
I don't think Alice was that jumpy. It was probably like the Doki Doki Literature Club episode. We tried to implement like gimmicks, doing poetry.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's totally fair. And that was also when you sold out. Same with episode right after with Illusory Wall. We had a celebrity guest, and you
Hmm.
just talked about games that you got for free. Yeah,
I
I think
know,
I
I know.
think
I should actually try getting more games for free. I keep forgetting that's a thing I can do now.
oh man, it's all downhill from here. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2, season 4 of the Daydreamcast. I am Bro.
And I am Murph.
Um, Murph, you have been playing way more what you playins. All my what you playins take too long now. Cause informal announcement, this is like in my head the JRPG era of my backlog playing. So I'm probably gonna take way longer on what you're playing's even now. It's
Hmm.
unfortunate.
Well, I'm just trying to compensate because I know my next couple, at the very least, the next episode is shaping up to just be me playing like AAA games.
Yep. Uh well, we'll get there when we get there. Murph, you played Anatomy. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So there's this indie horror movie that's sweeping the social medias, called Skinamarink, uh, which
Skidamarinky do I love you. Is that in the movie or is
I
that not a
I don't know what you just referenced. Is that a thing? Is that what the title
That's
comes
a
from?
song. I don't know if that's where the title comes from. That's why I asked. That is like a song people sing.
Oh,
Like
okay.
moms sing that is like Skidamarinky do I love you.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. No, I just feel that I'm going to go watch it at some point. Uh, I've said before I'm not really a horror guy, but every now and again, like once a year, my brain tells me to seek out something that I know is going to mess me up. And it seems like Skinamarink is going to be that, even though like I hear it's very divisive. Anyway, I've heard from a lot of people that if you like Skinamarink, then you'd like this game Anatomy, which is an itch.io game.
Did you like Anatomy, Murph?
Yes, I did. Because this and seemingly Skinamarink and a few other like indie horror things we've gotten recently, both in games and movies and shows, are kind of based around the premise of what if your house hated you for living in it?
Is there a distinction between that and a haunted house or like even a poltergeist or like you know what I
Yes,
mean?
because
Like
it's not the like idea of like a singular spirit. It's more the spirit of the house itself has become malicious. It's like a Japanese thing.
so under this definition, is Disney Channel's movie Smart House part of this genre?
Uh, yes, I would say that. And that one
Okay.
Treehouse of Horror that stars Pierce Brosnan, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm taking notes. Continue.
So Anatomy is a very straightforward. It's an itch.io game. You can get it for $3. It's from this dev, Kitty Horror Show, who I'm not too familiar with, but I hear they're like making waves in the indie game horror scene, much in the same way as like Puppet Combo a few years ago. Um,
Sure.
and the game is very straightforward. You are in a house with no exit, and you are walking around getting tapes to play in a tape recorder that sort of talks about this urban explorer that has this idea that the rooms of a house kind of coordinate to a human body. The kitchen is sort of like the heart because things move through it or such and such. I forget all like the analogies. It's very well written. But you sort of find all the tapes, and then the game just ends, and then you reload it, and you play through it again. But now the house is it's a little fucked up. Like some rooms just have like stark red light, or like hallways take a little longer to walk down than you expect.
Uh,
It's all done in like pitch black. There's like barely any light in the game, and it's kind of hard to tell if like this is just the mind playing tricks on you or there's something really there. But so often I would see like shapes in the corners of the screen. Like I would see like the outline of a person just ahead of me, but then I would get there and there's nothing. And it's like so
Um,
subtly done. It's not like a jump scare thing. It's really just like that feeling of being in an a place you only recognize by design, but not really like you've been in, and your mind playing tricks on you.
I'm wondering like the influences of this game in this context. So like, would you compare it to something like PT, for instance, or maybe Eternal Darkness when you're talking about playing tricks on you or going through the same location with things differing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would
Like,
say PT is probably a pretty heavy influence. There's not really like a puzzle element. It really is just one of those games where you just kind of follow the objective being explore the house, find tapes, play them. And then the tapes really get kind of disturbing because on that second playthrough, it's kind of playing the same info, but then by I think like the third tape, it starts playing like this really distorted like children's song about like gonna get you. And then like another one's this really long like 2 minute monologue from this woman talking about like tumors growing on her body and teeth were forming out of them and stuff. I was very spooked by this game. And like I said, it's $3. I think it's a hell of a like a midnight play. It
that
definitely
sounds
it
that
definitely
sounds
preys
good.
on some like fears that I know I have but couldn't really articulate, much in the same way that a lot of these other like your house hates you horrors seem to be doing. I don't really know a genre descriptor for it other than that.
What do you think those elements are? Do you think it's like a hostile environment you're supposed to feel safe in, or what?
I think it's yeah, that like feeling of your place of security isn't secure. When I was a little kid, I used to have a lot of difficulty sleeping. Um, and I would wake up in the night and just kind of look around and see shapes. And then I would like turn
Mm,
on the light and be like, oh, that's a coat bunched up in the corner. But I saw that as some like crouched goblin creature. I used to like not sleep with my back to the room, or on my
ah.
stomach because I wanted like immediate awareness of all my surroundings in case I had to bolt up in the night.
Okay, all right. No, I mean that makes sense. So anatomy taps into those feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, $3. I think I will play this. This may be a game that shows up on our YouTube channel. I may play it for
Oh
that
ho
or
ho.
something. That sounds good. Yeah, plugging that now. But you also played another game,
Another
didn't you?
game that starts with A. Uh,
We're doing alphabetical backlogs now.
mm-hmm. I played Akane, which technically I have been playing since PAX West. I just, for some reason, have not talked about it. Um, uh,
Yeah.
Akane is a very straightforward game. I guess what I would compare it to, having not played this game, but knowing the discourse around it, a slightly more involved Vampire Survivor.
Okay.
What it is, you know that scene in Kill Bill Volume 1 when Lucy Liu is like, tear that bitch apart, and then the movie goes
Yeah.
like black and white, and it's just like a
Her
katana
fighting the
fest?
crazy 88.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that, the game. It's basically you are in the final act of some like revenge cyberpunk noir story, playing a girl named Akane who has a katana and a pistol, and she set out to kill this yakuza boss. And you show up to his headquarters, and he sends like all the yakuza after you. And you just kind of fight waves and waves, and then every interval there's like a boss fight, and that's basically what the game is. You have a basic attack, you have a gun you can pull out that like reloads on kills,
Hmm.
and then you can unlock like if you die in one hit, enemies die in one hit. And then
Yeah.
you start from the very beginning when you die. But if you achieve certain like achievements like kill 50 enemies with your pistol in one life, you unlock a new pistol that has some like different mechanics to it, like a shotgun or a sniper rifle that pierces, stuff like that.
Sure.
It's very pick up and playable. I've only made it as far as the third boss, but I think that it goes as high as five. But
Okay.
I've been playing it since September, just kind of as like an end of the day cooldown game. It's very pick up and playable. I kind of compare it to like a very basic arcade game like Pac-Man. It's just so
Yeah.
straightforward. All you need to think about is dodging dudes, killing dudes, shooting dudes. That's it. That's the extent of it.
This to me looks better than Vampire Survivors.
Mm-hmm.
So that looks just from like first glance. because it looks more involved. Is there any like real progression, or is it only options through the unlocks of weapons?
It's only those unlocks. You can get like some sort of like so you can unlock new swords, but there's only 3 swords including your starter one, and the other 2 swords just
Okay.
have like special moves. Like one is you throw it and the other one is you do like a spin move. And those are
Okay.
so quick to unlock. There's a few different types of guns, but they don't. I've only unlocked one because it said how you unlocked it. I haven't seen how you unlock the others. And then you have different dashes you can unlock. Like either it's a straightforward dash or you just kind of sprint for a bit. And then you can get
Okay.
some trinkets that augment you slightly, like increasing the amount of ammo you recover when you kill someone, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
theoretically, you would like get to a point where you have like your perfect build and can just go and go and go. I
Hmm.
haven't gotten to that point yet because, like I said, I only make it as far as like the 3rd boss.
But you don't. But like, I guess what I'm trying to hear is like the distinction here is that the progression of this game is not based on a sort of progression path. Like a lot of this
No.
build stuff is just like you picking a preference for the game, and the actual game progression is just literally you getting better at it, right?
Yes, exactly. Like, you know, even though I unlocked like these fancy new swords and things, their special moves are very situational, and I don't find myself like relying on them. Like when I unlocked that whirlwind move, I wasn't thinking like, aha, this will make wave 2 easier and stuff like that. All your
Yeah.
enemies are very basic. Every now and again, one of 3 special enemies will spawn, like a dude that can shoot you, a cyber samurai, and just like a big heavy dude that grabs you and beats you up. I like the game. It's very addictive to just kind of sit down and play. I don't really know if I really have the wherewithal to really like set aside time to be like, all right, I'm gonna make it as far as the final boss, you know?
Yeah.
But it's fun.
And that's all that matters, isn't it?
Uh
At the
huh.
end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also a low price. It's not. It's $4.99. So I mean, I think
Oh,
that's
I got
totally
it on
reasonable.
sale for like $1.30. So,
Oh, you see, there you go. Bada bing, bada boom. I mean, you can't beat that.
and it plays very well on Switch.
Oh, I bet, or like Steam Deck or
Hmm.
anything like that. All right, I think it's time to talk about Devil May Cry.
Yeah, you said you wanted to revive the hot take minute.
The secret to the hot take minute is it's never dead. It's asleep. It
Oh,
is a sleeping giant of the Daydreamcast.
it's a sleeping volcano. The hot take volcano.
Exactly. And then when it blows up, there's air horns. Instead of me and Pavlos doing it, now we have actual edited air horn effects.
Hmm.
I love Devil May Cry as a series. Have you played any Devil May Cries before?
No.
What is your experience with the character action genre?
I as in like I get
Kingdom Hearts
yes,
2.
Kingdom Hearts. I've played all 3 every Kingdom Hearts 3 times. I'm trying to think. I've never played a Bayonetta. I didn't play
Ninja Gaiden.
God of War classics.
I'd count God of War Classic, yeah.
I never played
Sure.
Heavenly Sword. Never played a
Oh
Ninja
gosh.
Gaiden. I never played that PS2 Nightmare Before Christmas game where Jack Skellington has a booger.
Future Daydreamcast episode.
Okay, fair enough. I'm sure there's some I'm forgetting. I love doing air combos. I love juggling people.
Yeah, of course. It's a thing. Devil May Cry is an amazing series. I think that each title offers its own thing. I think most definitely the worst one is Devil May Cry 2 because the genre was still very young and they didn't necessarily know what made it special yet. So
Mm.
there was a lot of changed elements in it that feel bad. Like for instance, the guns have a higher priority in Devil May Cry 2. Um, Most of the time they're meant to extend combos or like keep enemies in the air, for instance, but in that game it is like one of the go-to things because it just does so much damage, right? And it's very responsive. So like shit like that they just didn't think through. Otherwise everything else is like a high recommend, big thumbs up. This being said, I think now that the dust has settled and Devil May Cry 5 has been out for years and
the franchise has resurged from the ashes of DMC.
Yes, the franchise exactly. Um, I think Devil May Cry 4 is the second worst. And I'm including the reboot. I'm including fucking what's that developer's name? Ninja Theory. I'm including Ninja Theory in this ranking. I legit think Devil May Cry 4 is a game that I will probably never want to play again. And that sounds very mean, but it's true.
Well, is there, because that was the one right before the reboot. So do you think there's like, I don't know, is Devil May Cry 4 to blame for that?
Definitely part of it. Yeah. Okay. So like to get a glimpse into like production history and stuff, the franchise has always been ups and downs. So like one by Kamiya was like a big hit or whatever, and like people loved it, founded a lot of principles of the character action genre, yada yada yada. I just talked about two. Um and three came along and was like a prequel and like went back to like the priorities of like speed, etc., etc. And then when four came along, four was meant to sort of be like a next gen title, and it pushed a lot. However, you can tell playing the game that the game is very rushed, and I think it did sell well, but it's one of those that it didn't sell well in the eyes of big wigs. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I've never
um
really heard about Devil May Cry 4. Well, I used to have a military buddy who was stationed in Okinawa, so he never got like the E3 conferences, so I'd relay everything to him by text. And when the DMC
yeah.
5 trailer premiered, I was like, oh, it looks like it's a sequel to DMC. Dante has a robot arm now, because I didn't know who the
Oh my
character
god.
Nero was.
Okay, well, we could get to that because, like, okay, so the thing is like, number one, yeah, Devil May Cry 4 stars Nero. He had a devil arm in that one.
Not a devil trigger.
Yeah, pretty much not a devil trigger. He has like another trigger later on when he gets Yamato that's similar to one,
Mm-hmm.
but no, he did not have a devil trigger in 4. However, what happens is halfway, spoiler alert for Devil May Cry 4. A very old game at this point, over 10 years old. So fuck you. No, I'm sorry. um, Halfway through the campaign, you switch to Dante. And Dante has his like Devil May Cry 3 moveset, and he can switch styles on the fly instead of in between missions, etc., etc. So here's the thing, and especially since after 4 there was a long stretch of time. The thing I want to say here is I think Devil May Cry 4 is a very solid foundational combat game. So for a lot of people, it was a game to play and love for a long time. The systems are good, it feels good, etc., etc. But that back half as Dante is literally, I don't want to give a number to it, but it's mostly backtracking through the first 10 levels. So it's literally like a mirror. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're revisiting old areas backwards. And you can tell that the game is, it's a disservice to say half finished, but it's true. Like they cut out a lot, and you can tell that the game was compromised in that way. And like the special editions tried to patch it up with adding, Trish and Lady, which are fine. And they added Virgil, who is, the same as he usually is. They added like 2 mechanics to him. And it's a solid game. However, I think now Devil May Cry 5 supersedes it. It has that foundation aspect, but then has the complete game content alongside it. So for instance, take Nero. The thing about Nero is that he has one sword. He has the Red Queen, and like you can do things with it, like rev it up like a motorcycle for combo opportunities. And he had a devil arm to like grab people, and or to like grapple them or reach them or etc., etc. And then that was it. So his moveset was really limited in 4. It's fun, but it's limited. And then Devil May Cry 5 got rid of the devil arm and gave you multiple different arms to it. So that way, Nero is a much more engaging character. And also, I guess, minor spoiler for Devil May Cry 5, Nero eventually gets a devil trigger of his own. So there is that aspect to it. And then in terms of style and content, each level is very different and varied. You play as different characters each level, but each level does not feel, like a retread. V is an interesting character on his own. Virgil plays differently, and I appreciate that in this one. He still has Devil May Cry 3 elements to him, but he plays generally different. And I guess the other thing is like style. There's some things I like about Devil May Cry 4's anime style. I think it's especially nice in that that's the one game where you're fighting enemies that look like angels. So, because like you're fighting basically a church in that game, and
Okay.
the church worships a demon named Sparta, yada 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 bullshit. But like you're fighting angels in that game, and in this one it has less of an anime aspect. Anime was always like a really big aspect of the Devil May Cry series, but five just completely blows it out of the water because I think it was informed by the reboot's artistic stylings, the personality of it, but then it maintains the humor and tone and like the pace of the anime Devil May Cries. So then you're like really appreciating it. Like Dante's this goofy guy, and they fucking made the anime canon, and it's just a wild ride. But then they use like the RE Engine's realistic graphics to sort of ground everything in a really nice way. And I don't know, just I love five. I like the DMC reboot. Like I think the DMC reboot also adds things to the table that four just doesn't have. Like I played through four this time around, and I was like, man, anything I could get out of this, I could get elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, four is just it's down. It's down in the dumps for me now. It's over.
This may be a labored comparison, but it's literally the only thing my brain is bringing forth as like a comparison. It sounds like this is like the Batman Arkham Origins of the franchise, where there's little you can get from it that you can't get from the sequel Arkham Knight and done better, or the first game not the first game, the previous game Arkham City that has more content.
Yeah. It's in a tough place. And the thing is like on release and after release, it was an important title because for Devil May Cry 4, like there wasn't a game that was like quote unquote Devil May Cry in a realistic sense for years. And I mean years. So like for a lot of people this was a definitive experience. But time sort of changes that.
Is this the one that has the line, um, I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light?
No, that's Devil May Cry 1. That is when Trish dies in Devil May Cry 1. Spoiler alert for Devil
Oh,
May Cry 1.
okay. I thought that was much later, based on my
No.
understanding. Okay. So have you only been playing Devil May Cry 4, or are you doing a Murph and playing through them?
I mean, I've already played them all. I Here's what happened was I re-downloaded them and I specifically went to 4 because that's the one I've played the least.
Hmm.
Other than 2, but like again, we're not talking about 2, dog. Um, so it was the one I was like, you know what? Let's see what's going on here again. And as I was playing, I was just like, man, this. And the other thing is like it came out on the 360 era, and the 360 era for Capcom in terms of environments and stuff started to feel a little generic or something. Like it
Yeah.
gives me a big Resident Evil 5 village vibe, like like the Africa settlements and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it gives me a lot of those Xbox 360 vibes, and I don't particularly like that art design for the environments and stuff.
I think
It
we're
gives me
I think for a lot of franchises, we're going to look back on the PS3, Xbox 360 era and see a lot of those entries as kind of like weird growing pains for a lot of
yeah
franchises. Because, it happened with this, like you said, Resident Evil. Just sort of a lot of franchises trying to figure themselves out in a environment that was getting predominantly dominated by realistic military shooters.
yeah. It was a tough market, and like the industry was changing in so many ways, like, and the scale of like things were just like growing tremendously. So like I think a lot of this game was ambitious, but it's just one of those things where it's like they I don't know, man. It's just fucked. I don't. And to be clear, I want to be clear here. This is probably a hot take. This is why that's why there's a volcano about to kill us, Murph.
Mm.
Because I think there are people that still love 4, like a lot. But just playing it, I just saw it, and then like I played Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition after, and I was like, whoa, this is fucking amazing. Oh my god, this is
Mm-hmm.
so good.
Did I tell you I attended the midnight launch party for Devil May Cry 5 at the PAX before last I attended?
Why?
It was something to do. It was like, oh, there's a party going on. And I'm like, cool. We get to the door and they charge us $50 for entry, and then food's free inside, but it's just like crostinis and stuff, and drinks are like $12. I
Oh my
I
god.
didn't have a fantastic time. I met the creator. He like came up and patted me on the shoulder like as I was talking with my friends, just sort of
There you go.
inserting himself. We didn't have much to say to one another, but it happened.
That's what it's all about. That's the networking of the Daydreamcast, y'all.
I know. I should call him out. Call him up. See if he remembers me.
We'll have him guest star. You played a game called Teardown, didn't you, Murph?
Yeah, this was one of those hot indie titles of 2022. So the Teardown is one of those games that are kind of like they built an engine that does something really cool, and then they weren't really certain how to build a game around it. It's a voxel art style with fully destructible environments, and the art, like the graphics, look really cool. Like it's kind of like one of those Minecraft with all the NVIDIA shaders kind of feel to it. And everything is truly fully destructible. It's not like one of those red alert situations where it's like, most things are destructible, but you can't destroy important things. Um, and you have a variety of tools like a sledgehammer, a shotgun, a blowtorch, and you go on heists effectively. You are a teardown construction company that gets embroiled in these competing like crime families doing hit jobs on one another. So you'll get called up and be like, I need you to break into this guy's house and steal all this precious art, or drive his luxury cars into the ocean, or steal this safe, yada yada. The issue is that very quickly all of these scenarios become races. Uh, the idea is that you like drop in a map. There's multiple maps. A lot of them get recycled a lot, and then you'll have different objectives spread across that. So like in that one I mentioned, like stealing art. There's like various art pieces, and you need to do at least three, and they're like in far corners from each other. The issue is that very quickly these objectives get hooked up to alarm systems. So the minute you take one, a 60-second timer starts. So you got to get the others, then get to your escape vehicle. So the idea is that you use this destructible environment to like set up routes for yourself. It's just I'm just not having that as great a time with it as I wanted, or at least I thought I would. Because it becomes a lot of like you're in the process, you've got like two of three things stolen, and then you like hit a snag, you have to like quick load restart, and like it like the act of problem solving doesn't feel fun in this because a lot of it is left to chance because of the wonky vehicle controls. There's a lot of vehicle dependent missions, and the vehicle controls are not ideal. And B, the destruction just isn't that tactical. It's not it's destructible, but it's not realistic. Like you can destroy like all the supports for a house, save one, and because that one is still standing, the house like is still upright. It won't fall over. There's no like gravity to anything. And that's what kind of creates an issue because I had like one thought where I would tactically destroy this lighthouse so that it would tip over a certain way, and I destroyed all the wall on one particular side, and like, why isn't it tipping? Why isn't it tipping? And I had to go around the backside and like destroy it all the way around. And then it just kind of plonked like directly down and didn't tip at all. And that was very disappointing. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll still play it to try and like unlock all the tools. What has been a boon is this game is very moddable. In fact, that's kind of what it sells on these days, is that there's a huge modding community around it. Kind of seemingly from my perspective, only setting up like environments just to destroy things. But you can get some pretty nifty tools like the portal gun, which makes all of those races a lot more like easy to navigate. You're objectively cheating, but in my idea, like the game kind of cheated first. Or you can get the Metal Gear Revengeance katana and just slice things in half, and that's fun.
So this is basically a physics sandbox with different, objectives or whatever. It seems like your objection is to the actual physics part.
Well, because
right?
it doesn't have physics, it just has destruction.
I think those are two components that need to work in tandem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like I said, like another example, I was trying to like really set up this route to try and get, because there's always optional objectives in every mission. And I was trying to like set up this one. There's a beach house that's on like stilts. And I was like, oh, I could blow out the stilts on the left side so the house will like lean towards the ground, and that puts the thing I need to grab at ground level. But I blew out all the stilts on the left side, but there were still two on the right side that were seemingly holding the whole structure up. And then I blew those out, and it's like it's still standing, and I'm like, what could it be? Oh, it's the little staircase down to the ground level is keeping the whole structure up now. And like, I don't know, like, I'm sure the engine itself was difficult to put together, and adding like realistic crumbling physics to everything would like toast a lot of computers. But it's like that sort of stuff takes me out of the experience. It feels like I can't problem solve when I can't predict how the engine is going to react to my destruction,
Yeah.
But, c'est la vie.
Oh, well. How much is this game?
I think I got it on sale. I think it sells for $30. I got it for $25.
Would you recommend it for 25?
I think I would wait for a deeper cut. Like I said, it came out last year, so it's probably going to take a while for it to be even like 50% off. At that point, by the time it's that cheap, there's probably going to be a lot more mods, and they're also adding like free content, free levels all the time.
Yeah.
By that point, it's probably a more worthwhile experience. It just kind of depends on what you want out of a game that has quote unquote like fully destructible environments.
Yeah. All right. Is it time for the variety minute?
Yeah, so let's talk about ending things.
This week's variety minute is true endings. Now, I want to be. I was like actually looking into this. Do you want to talk about alternate endings or just literally quote unquote true endings?
I was thinking more true endings, but more in a way where we try to define what that means. Because, as far as like the gamer sphere is concerned, a true ending is something highly specific, because a lot of games have multiple endings, but there seems to be this idea that the ending you work hardest for is the true ending.
Well, I think a lot of it, and like we'll get into it with the game of the week, a lot of it is content. Whether or not you're doing these side quests, whether or not you're checking these boxes. And then once you check these boxes, then it's like, oh yeah, you've addressed all these things. Now there's an entirely different resolution here. Like in contrast to like Silent Hill 4 or Silent Hill 2, where like each ending is like more tailored to player engagement. There's literally some that are like, well, you barely played this game, but you did just enough. Versus somewhere it's like you got these side quests, you collected the items, and bada bing, bada boom, you've unlocked the content. I think a really clear example I always go to is Symphony of the Night, which is like if the final boss is Richter, you didn't play the game enough. The game tries to make that very clear. It's like, hey, like there's a lot more game left. You need to do this. If you don't, this is all you're getting. And that's why there's an inverted castle, and that's why there's like an entire other chunk to it. Is it's like, oh, it's supposed to be very clear, like there's more here, there's more going on, you know?
Yeah, like sometimes a true ending is simply more of an ending. I think about something like Mass Effect 3, which, the ending controversy aside, one of the components of that ending is depending on how much galactic readiness you had for the final mission. If you hit a certain threshold, the ending would include like a little 5-second clip of Shepard in the rubble taking a breath. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's the true ending. He survived. But it's not really indicative of any sort of like narrative. I think like the best example of a true ending is Arkham Knight, where once you beat the Scarecrow and everything, the game isn't done. You don't hit like credits or anything. You need to resolve all the issues in the city before Batman like puts in the call that he's done for good. And part of that, part of doing that in Arkham Knight means doing like all 500 Riddler challenges, which is a pain. Um,
Yeah.
but it is like showing like, no, this is the end of the game. You have done everything. There is no more content.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like this because I'm not a completionist.
Yeah,
I think there's more tasteful ways to do true endings. I think Bloodborne is really good for this because I think Bloodborne is tasteful in how it engages endings. The three endings are basically how you want to engage. You can be like, I don't want to play any bosses. Let me just fucking go for the go for the lazy Susan ending. And then there's an ending for Gurman, and then there's like an actual ending which requires you don't have to fight every boss. You don't even have to get every item. You just have to get the right items and know what to do with them, and then you fight the real boss. You know what I mean? And I think that's much more tasteful.
yeah. To you, does a true ending constitute a canonical ending, especially in series with like sequels?
Since it has to, when you make a sequel, you have to commit to an ending. I don't like alternate endings that like stick to canon. Like for instance, that's one of the reasons why I like Dark Souls. So like in Dark Souls, I'm not going to talk lore. The endings are all canon. Like in Dark Souls 1, the two endings they're like they could ambiguously happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, in this sense, there is no removal of agency from the player. I like stuff like that. I think that's very important. Um, and like sometimes you'll get something like Fallout, for instance, where you go through these things, and it's much more similar to like King's Quest. Like this King's Quest we're going to talk about later has variations. So
Yeah.
like for Fallout, a lot of times it's like you didn't do this side quest, so this character got fucked over, but you did this side quest, so this character's okay. And then sometimes you'll see that reflected in a sequel. In the sequels there, it doesn't necessarily give you the big canon, oh, this is what happened, but like you'll see, oh, clearly in the last game he did that side quest. And I think that's tasteful, and I think that's fine.
Yeah, like something going back to Mass Effect again with the difference between, well, the jump between Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2. I started with Mass Effect 2. Actually, it was years later until I actually played Mass Effect 1. But if you just start with in Mass Effect 2 with like no previous save to import nor no choices, the game kind of plonks you into what BioWare calls their canon world state. And weirdly, it's a world state where they seem to have chosen like all of the renegade choices that like statistically players did not pick. So it's like a world where you killed the Rachni Queen, where the Galactic Council died, yada yada. It's kind of like the most negative world state you could have. And it wasn't until I finally was able to play Mass Effect 1 and port that to Mass Effect 2 that I got to see that different world state and be like, wow, this is so different from the canon I'm used to. People like humans now.
I think there's some ones to mention. Like, here's another thing I like about some true endings. Um, an example here would be uh probably like a Near Automata, or actually for me it's like Cave Story. But Near Automata or any of the Near games, Those games are games that are meant to be played multiple times into like new game pluses
Hmm.
where each ending is built on top of each
Yeah,
other.
it's
So like
iterative.
that, yes, and that true final ending is meant for the diehards, which sort of encapsulates the full experience of mastery. That's, I think, appropriate and fine. I don't think at that point it's worried about canon. Like I don't think that's like the idea there.
Yeah,
And I think for me, Cave Story is also a scenario where it's not necessarily like they build on each other iteratively, but it's more like you were never going to get the true ending on your first playthrough. On your
yeah,
first playthrough, there's too many subtle differences that you don't know about, and it's only on later playthroughs you're like, wait 1 second, maybe I could do this. And if you can do that, you change something and you go, oh wait 1 second, and then the true ending opens up that way. And I think that's appropriate too. Another iterative one would be Undertale, where it's
yeah,
informed by prior playthroughs. I think Undertale is really smart about endings.
yeah. Because Undertale does that thing where, spoilers, I guess. When you get to, I think most players got the neutral ending their first time around because they didn't realize how much, like, their level and exp were actually affecting like the narrative. And then
Yeah.
me, I got that neutral ending and then went back and did the full pacifist ending. And to
Yeah.
me, like, I've never done the genocide run. I don't want to because of how that game structures its ending and narrative around them. Um,
Yeah.
I think like a game. How do you feel about the idea that the true ending is like the best outcome ending?
I don't necessarily think that's the, I don't think it goes by true when we talk about this, but like I think that's one of the things I liked about Blood Omen Legacy of
Mm,
Kain, which was the negative ending where Kain became a bad guy is the canon ending. I don't necessarily need the player to feel good. You know
yeah,
what I mean? I think it's sometimes better for the character or the story to take the other turn. And I think that's appropriate too sometimes. I can't think of a scenario off the top where the canon ending is bad for the player. Um, but yeah.
I think about something like Resident Evil 1 and how that
Mm,
final lab section can play out differently, um, particularly if you're playing as like. Actually, no, both of them, because you can have scenarios where, like, you're playing as Chris and Rebecca died earlier, or you're not able to save Jill, and, like, going into, like, the final FMV cinematic of your character in the escape chopper and what they're looking at. Are they looking at the two people they saved, the other two stars members, or are they there
yeah.
by themselves and like Chris lights one up? You know?
In that context, I think you would like how they deal with Silent Hill 1. So, spoiler alert for Silent Hill 1, Cheryl, you saw the movie. I'm now advertising that we're doing a movie
Uh
podcast
huh.
for
Uh huh.
video games. But in the original Silent Hill 1 game, there is not Cheryl, who's the fucking cop.
Sybil.
Cheryl is the girl. Sybil, thank you so much. In the game, you can save Sybil through like a weird item that you find on the ground, or Sybil can die. And it doesn't, the later game Silent Hill 3, which deals directly with the events of Silent Hill 1, never mentions Sybil. It's very clear that Harry survived and brought the baby, but the fate of Sybil is unclear. So it may not necessarily be a happy ending that was canon. And I think that's a scenario that, yeah, I think is realistic.
Isn't that something that what Deus Ex: The Fall or no, what, Invisible War? Which one's the like the first sequel?
Invisible War was the first sequel. I didn't play it.
Okay, but doesn't it do a thing where all three of the endings to the first game are canon at the same time?
That sounds cool. If that's I don't know Deus Ex sequel lore. I didn't even play like Human Revolution that much, which is a prequel, but
Yeah, I haven't either. I was just kind of like doing research on like true endings. Um, I think like
I'm pro alternate endings being all canon. Thumbs up. So did something right there.
I think with like a true ending, a trap a lot of developers get into is they kind of end up doing the Clue ending, and I mean Clue the movie, where, well, I guess in its original run it didn't do this, but in all airings and DVD releases since, it does the thing where it shows like the ending and then the text pops up that like that's one way it could have played out, but it also could have played out like this. And then it does that like 3 more times, and then finally it says, but here's how it really happened. And it's just
Yeah.
a different ending, you know? It's not
Yeah.
like anything's really revealed or it like finalizes some sort of character arc or narrative theme. It's just different, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes like a true ending requires, like, did you play Inside?
No.
Okay. Um, Inside has, if you just like follow the path, Inside has an ending. Um, but there's like a secret ending where if you like do some tricky platforming and you go into this room, you find like, I think it's just like a chair and a plug in the wall, and if you go over and unplug that plug, your main character falls over dead.
Mm.
And then you get
Um,
an achievement that says like true ending achieved.
that reminds me of spoiler alert. I won't spoil The Witness. Braid. I'll talk about Braid here. Braid has something very similar, where you have to get stars, and if you, well, technically there's two endings aside from the main ending. One ending is minor spoilers for Braid because I'm talking about the weird stuff. You're meant to get a princess at the very end of the game that you're not supposed to get to. If you are really good at platforming and puzzle solving, you can get the princess, and then she like blows up, and then like the game just cuts to credits.
Isn't it an analogy for the atomic bomb or something?
Yes, yeah. Basically, yes. All of that. There's that one, and then like it's the same ending, but you can get stars in the game, and the stars are all hidden. There's one where you have to like wait 7 minutes for like a platform to move slowly to you. You get on it, and then you wait like another 7 minutes to bring it back, and then you can get like an invisible star. If you get like 7 of those, you can easily get to the princess, and then she becomes like the atomic bomb. But I think in those scenarios, what I don't like about these quote unquote true endings is it sort of makes subtext explicit, or it makes, like for Braid, a lot of the game is about regretting things you've done. So I think, yeah, the atomic bomb would be one of the biggest regrets anyone would ever do. If you made the atomic bomb, you should fucking regret it.
Yes.
But but if you make the game like, oh, the true ending is the atomic bomb, and by the way, the normal ending has like quotes from the fucking Oppenheimer shit.
Uh-huh.
Like it's got the I am become death shit. So like there was nuclear subtext. So I don't like it when the subtext becomes text. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it kind of goes into that thing where we said like sometimes a true ending is just like more of an ending or it just removes ambiguity.
Yeah.
Like how much, I guess overall, are you pro the idea of a true ending, like making the player jump through some extra hoops in order to get like more closure? Or does that seem like restrictive's not the right word, but like forcing the player to do a grind in order to have like proper closure? Are you
I,
against that idea?
no. I mean, it goes into like the side quest thing. And I think
Mm-hmm.
King's Quest 6 or Batman Arkham Knight are good examples of unresolved narratives. The true ending is just resolving the narratives.
Yeah.
And that I think is appropriate and fine. I think it goes into like the hidden endings, or like you know what I mean? It's the weird shit that I'm like, this doesn't have to be canon if we don't want it to be. There's other stuff like Chrono Trigger. A lot of JRPGs have like alternative endings as well. Just wanted to say that before.
Yeah. For the record, I want to state, to me, the real ending of Bloodborne is the simplest one. You just wake up. It was all a dream. That's always been my interpretation.
Okay. There you go. I'm not going to argue with you here. I don't want to waste 20 minutes of my life.
All right.
Are we ready for the game of the week?
Yeah. Let's get into it. Let's go to the Emerald Isles, the Green Isles. Damn it.
You seem so far away, and I just need to hear your voice. I just need to hear you say, if you would have me go or stay. Girl in the tower, I'm reaching out. Please tell me what to do. Girl in the tower, I'm calling out. My heart cries out for you.
Our game of the week this week is King's Quest VI. Air today, gone tomorrow. King's Quest VI is a 2D graphic adventure game with a point-and-click interface. You know, we're talking look, walk, talk, use actions with an item inventory. It follows immediately from King's Quest V. Basically, at the end of King's Quest V, Prince Alexander met Princess Cassima. This game, he's like, oh my god, she's fucking beautiful. I miss her. You know, she's at her kingdom, the Green Isles. And I gotta see her. I'm in love. And everyone's like, you're fucking, this is wild, dude. You met her for like 10 minutes, man. What are you doing here? Anyways, he's got to fucking go. So he brings on a ship, and he ends up stranded on the islands, and there he learns that Princess Cassima is to be wed to the vizier Abdul al-Hazred, and the king and queen are dead. The other islands that make up the Green Islands are consisting of different factions, and they hate each other for specific reasons. And the way to travel the islands, the ferry, is mysteriously out of commission. Your job is to unravel the mysteries of the vizier and the Emerald Isles, and you know, rescue Cassima from certain evil. The game has a lot of variants for endings depending on what side quests and solutions you pursue, such as taking control of the genie instead of killing the genie, or bringing back Cassima's parents back from the dead. Either way, Murph, what did you think of this game?
I love King's Quest VI. DDcast, Season 4 is currently 2 for 2 on games Murph just loves the hell out of. I think this is the best King's Quest game. I would hesitate to say it's the best Sierra game, because I haven't played any of the Quest for Glory games, and I've always wanted to, so I'm just like, but of the Sierra games I've played, I think this is like the best one.
What do you think makes the distinction?
I think it's the act of like presentation. This is so refined. Their specific like adventure game, like how you play, like making it. You know, you go back to like King's Quest 1 through 4. They're still using that like parsing engine where you have to like type go north and things like that to choose direction. Here it's just simple point and click. You click a spot, Alexander walks there. You like pull up the eye icon, you click on something, the narrator will describe what you're looking at and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's so straightforward, so you don't have to worry about like any control issue. It also just is like the puzzles are far less bullshit than they ever have been, and there's a lot less like action set pieces that are highly dependent on like input. There's like only one area, specifically like the entrance to the land of the dead, where just like an NPC can walk up to you, touch you, and kill you if you're not paying attention.
But like a lot, for me, in my opinion, a lot of the puzzles in this game are, it's sort of like gates to like make sure that you collected the right items beforehand.
Yeah.
Like there's like gates that like basically check, hey, do you have everything? And even then the game is sometimes forgiving. Like for instance, when you go up to when you're about to be thrown into the dungeon by the winged people, if you don't have everything initially, they'll let you go one time. There's a lot. There's like sometimes, or like if you're caught in the castle, what's his name? Jollo will let you out one time. Jollo will let you out one time, and he's like, "Hey, after this, you're fucked. Be careful, dude." So like the game is forgiving, and even then, the death scenes they're funny and enjoyable. Obviously, you should save often and save separately a lot of times, and you may be held back quite a bit by certain things, like for instance the inventory swapping of the pawn shop. Sometimes you may have the wrong item at the wrong time, but again, I think it's fine. I think the solutions are pretty straightforward and don't require heavy abstract thinking.
It's very difficult to soft lock yourself in this one, which is like a huge improvement. The only way you can really get soft locked is if you go back to the winged ones without all the items you'll need to survive the labyrinth. Like you go back even one game prior, King's Quest V. King's Quest V has this bit where you like walk into town and you see a cat chase a mouse, and if you don't do anything, the cat eats the mouse. Later, you're going to be like tied up and imprisoned in this basement. The mouse is supposed to like come and rescue you by chewing through the ropes. But if you didn't rescue the mouse by like in that specific like, and it's very quick when it happens, you're supposed to pull out a boot and throw it at the cat, and that will save the mouse. And then the mouse will rescue you later. But the difference between like rescuing the mouse and the mouse rescuing you is like, I'm going to say like a good 10 minutes of gameplay. You can forget if that even happened and wonder why you can't progress.
And to go back to that ending thing, like there's different ways, like there's different ways to get into the castle, for instance. And there's different ways to again, like you could kill the genie, or you could have Jollo take the genie by swapping the lamps. So like there's different, you won't be soft locked in that way. What will just happen is you'll have a shittier ending. Like that's the thing, and that's fine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You'll still get the girl at the end, but you may not like restore peace to the realm. You may not revive her parents. You may not be friends with Jollo. You may not be friends with the genie, etc., etc. Yeah. And this kind of gets back to our discussion about true endings. It's just more of an ending, and it's more of a happier one.
You could be dismal where it's like, hey, everybody's still at war. You're fucking like 19 years old, and you've inherited a shit kingdom.
Yeah.
So be ready, bud.
Yeah, yeah. How do you feel about like the theming of the different islands? Because I think that's like what also tickles me about this game, is that the theming to every island is so very different.
I like it. I like that the geography of it feels good. I think that the one thing about this game is I think sometimes it has, I don't want to say trouble because I ended up loving the writing, but it juggles between humor and like serious moments sometimes in like weird ways. I think but just to talk about the islands specifically, I like the personalities of the different things. Like I like the gnomes with the different senses.
Yeah, that's a
the
fun
big
puzzle.
Ears or the big nose. I like the chess pieces, the queens arguing with each other. Just it's all the stuff like that feels fresh and inviting. And then like as factions, it all makes sense why they don't like each other, because the fucking vizier fucking took stuff and then blamed other islands. So then you've got like a little civil war brewing, and the side quests and the true ending feel fulfilling because you've interacted with the world more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like it even gives you that, if you do the quick ending, which I have done like once before, where you disguise yourself as a woman and sneak into the castle, if you do that ending, like at the end, it will pop up a little text box being like, oh man, you got like an ending, but you could have like gone to the realm of the dead. And don't you want to do that? Doesn't that sound cool?
That is a cool thing. But like, I think the dead thing is like one of those scenarios where it's very clear. Like there's like a weird tone clash of like, you could play fucking xylophones on the bones and have dancing segments, but then you're fucking talking to the fucking Lord of the Dead who's like fucking metal.
Yeah.
And then you have to like hold a mirror to his face while he cries about like, the reality of his shit. Like there's like it's well written, but you're jumping. Like it's very close to Whiplash.
I think it really captures a tone of an actual like tabletop RPG. Like
that's fair.
If you can imagine like just like a very dedicated DM being like, and here's the pawn shop owner, and he can talk to you and has like different little gadgets you can trade out. And things like that. That kind of like helps me with the tone Whiplash. I think it helps for like the sort of more moon logic puzzles that there's literally just like the Isle of Wonders, which works on Wonderland logic. Like here's the bookworm and the bump on the log and the stick in the mud.
Yeah, and thankfully even then, like the Wonderland logic isn't bad. Like the bookworm, like the solution to his puzzle with the dangling participle shit isn't complicated. It makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't even have to like know what the term dangling participle means. You can just logic out, well, I found this weird thing. Maybe it goes on the island of weirdness.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, like I think it's all good, and you're right about the presentation. I love the portraits where they sort of animate the lips talking. I played the DOS version. I noticed that the portraits are different depending on the version, but I like the DOS version. I think it looks great. And I love the voices. The voices are great.
Oh yeah, we've got just a rundown, some different like names we got. As Alexander, we've got Robbie Benson, who I think that same year, 93? Yeah. No, 95. He would be the Beast in Disney's Beauty and the Beast. I wouldn't know it to hear his voice in this. It's also very funny that this game involves a Beauty and the Beast story, but then you also got like Tony J as like the Gates to Death and Captain of the Guard Saladin. Tony J.
The dogs. I love the guard dogs.
You love the guard dogs.
Oh my... I knew I was gonna love this game when I saw the guard dogs. I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah. Tony J would also be Judge Claude Frollo in Disney, another Hunchbacks of Notre Dame and other like Disney cartoons things. The narrator is also bringing to, damn it, where did his name go? Oh, Bill Ratner, who has done a ton of video game voices. What I recognize him first and foremost is he's Chancellor Udina from Mass Effect. But if you want, like, he's a ton of like major characters in most of the Grand Theft Autos. It's a very solid voice cast, and they're very good at reading exposition, which is, admittedly a good chunk of this game.
Yeah, a lot of this game is about setting, and I think that is one of the bigger strengths to like Roberta Williams and like the King's Quest series is like the setting and set pieces rather than full-on characterizations. Like for instance, this game, I don't necessarily feel involved in Prince Alexander's characterization period. It's more that I feel Alexander through my own actions in the world, and then the world itself is interesting and developed. And I didn't read like the guidebook, but the guidebook and like those pages have extensive information on the history of the islands, etc., etc.
Well, to scale the cliffs of logic, you were intended to read the guidebook because that's sort of like a copy
I don't know how to tell
thing.
you this, Murph. I didn't do that.
Nope, I didn't either. Okay.
Yeah. I think copy protection is one of the worst parts of these games, and it's understandable here, and thankfully it's like consistent. It's the same every time. But like even then, like
at the very least it's not a like look in your game manual and type in the code at the back sort of thing.
Yes.
It's more involved. You have to read a guidebook, understand the culture, and decipher the language in order to answer these riddles. That said, like the little like clicking to walk up the cliffs of logic is maybe the worst part of the game.
Yeah.
Whoa! Wait a minute.
I didn't like the Minotaur maze either. I don't like mazes either. So.
No, but that's another thing of just like of the time you were meant to like draw out a map as you did it, and just not that I have my keyboard and my mouse, and that's all I should need for a game.
Yeah.
Phantom Hourglass can get away with it.
Well, I mean, I think it's different in other games because those action games, I don't know, sort of immerse you more in that and it feels more intentional. I think in these scenarios, it's clear that they're meant to prolong the game. Like, and I think that's where it's like, oh, okay, dude. Like, I'm just walking in rooms and then the rooms fuck me over. I'm not about this.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel about Jollo, the court clown? Do you like his little incidental calliope music?
If you keep doing the voice, I'm not gonna like it. Splendiferous, even.
Yeah, there's a lot of Hanna-Barbera voice actors too.
Yeah.
It's sort of a meme that like Jollo is kind of aggravating because he has a tendency to just talk and talk, but he's supposed to be your like most consummate ally on the islands, other than like the unnamed pawn shop owner.
It goes back to like the tone thing where it's like he's in serious scenes.
Yes,
and he just talks like that, and you're like, what the fuck?
There's like a thing where he's talking like, I've never seen the princess look so dark and dour. And the entire time he's talking like that and his like incidental calliope music is playing in the background.
I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't hate him. I don't think he's super annoying. I could see spending hours on this game and then being annoyed by him. But
yeah,
like, it's fine.
And well, in terms of vocal performances, he's not as bizarre as the genie.
The genie is bizarre even in like visual design.
Yes, or the fact he gets drunk on mint. Like, I still don't get like, what is that a reference? Is that like is that lore?
I don't know the deep lore here. I also get like, I don't know. I probably don't want to go there. I just get weird vibes from the genie. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Just I don't know. I didn't kill him, but like I saw the bad ending. I saw the quick ending on YouTube.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, it's also weird how his turn is. Like, because when you get the bottle, he's like, oh, thank goodness. I finally feel the evil taint of that master going away. I want a good master.
It's like, you tried to kill me 5 times.
Yeah, dude. Like, I think this twist, like, this betrayal it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I like his disguises, though.
Those are good.
And I like his, like, come over here thing. It's very obvious. Like, every time. You don't need a guide to tell you don't go over there. But it's funny.
Yeah, no, it's pretty funny every time. I think my favorite is the gardener being like, come over here and I'll show you how I plant these flowers. It's like,
don't pay attention to the statue with an arrow following you. He's just there to scare you. And it's like, what?
It's like, even if that is true, why would I want to come see you plant flowers? Is this how you introduce yourself to people? Okay. The big question. How do you feel about the smash hit song Girl in the Tower?
Dude, I busted out laughing. I'm so about it. I think it makes the game that there's a love ballad at the end.
Yes.
Before
and it's like,
that, I don't...
It's such a late 80s, like power ballad, you know?
It fills my heart with love and joy, which is important because like the actual romance between Alexander and Cassima is not, some would say, developed. So like by the end of it, you're like, okay, this is weird, but all right.
You kind of get it's one of those issues of it being like a sequel thing. If I remember correctly, in King's Quest V, there's more of them like interacting together. So it makes sense why they would seek each other out after the fact.
But even then, by this game, it feels like the love is like,
I'm a prince, you're a princess.
Yeah, it feels like not. It feels like they're saying it, not meaning it, until the power ballad.
Yeah.
When you put the power ballad in, I feel it.
It's like you remember how the end of the Jake campaign in Resident Evil 6 ended with a song?
Yes. Yes, it ended with a real song, and like that was the campaign with the most romantic chemistry.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm feeling it.
I think more games should end with like original songs. I think that needs to be a category at the Game Awards.
I agree. 100%.
I don't-
What is that? Is that all we have to say
I mean,
about
it's
this
just
game?
like it's it's one of those things, kind of like classic Resident Evil. And I know I keep like calling back to Resident Evil, but genuinely, that's like my most point of reference over the last 2 years. Where it's like, I didn't want to play those original Resident Evils because I always heard they were like clunky and complicated compared to like, modern games with quality of life elements and things. And it's like, no, it's just a style of game we haven't gotten a lot of as of late. And I think like this game would be very palatable to modern gamers looking for like a true adventure game point and click experience.
I agree. And like the thing is also I think a lot of criticism for games like this and puzzles within these games largely comes from pre-internet times, where solutions weren't readily available, where you were stuck, and especially when people were kids and there was like a time investment and like it was much harder. It's just like there were more obstacles to overcome. Whereas now the obstacles are lesser and you're not a kid anymore. So the adventure game logic, the thing about adventure game logic, especially Sierra, I think LucasArts can get a little weird in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're often funnier in writing, but LucasArts, sometimes the fucking puzzles make no sense. And here, there's a logic to them. The logic may not be something you're used to, but it's there. You know what I mean? It's like rotten egg being sulfur. It's like, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You need sulfur for your spell, so you use the rotten egg. Like, there's nothing wrong with that abstraction,
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what is the biggest leap in logic in this entire game? And I'm like, you can kind of miss out getting, like, river Styx water for sneaking into the castle, but as far as, like, why would I ever think to do that with that, I can't really think of much of anything. And, part of that is this is, like, my third time playing this. So, I just kind of remember what the puzzles are. Once you know to throw the rotten tomato at the stick in the mud, that sticks with you for life,
Yeah. You'll remember it forever. I recommend this game, thumbs up. I like Sierra. Sierra's a good thing. And technically speaking, the first Daydreamcast episode with a Murph was a Sierra game.
That is true. We did Leisure Suit Larry.
If we ever do another Sierra game, which one would you want?
Maybe one of those Quest for Glory ones, because those are like point and click games, but they're also RPGs.
Do you want to do a police quest so we could do our ACAB bit, or no? Or we're gonna save that?
I hear Police Quest 4 is supposed to be good, but I think that's also like not a point and click thing. I think that's like a tactile, like,
really?
XCOM thing. I think so, unless
I didn't
I'm thinking
know.
something else.
I didn't know. I just hear the word quest, and
I know in Police Quest 1, there's a quick ending you can get for sexual harassment.
Well, it comes with the territory of the job, I suppose. All right. No, I think that's it. Anything else?
No, not really. Brogan, where can listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter at BroganChattin. We have a Daydreamcast YouTube channel that I think we're bad at promoting, but I'm going to try a little harder. I'm putting the Daydreamcast episodes on there for our listening pleasure. And otherwise, you can just see me fucking anywhere. I just pop up.
He just pops up in mirrors.
Murph, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Murph04. You can also hear me on my other podcast, This Podcast is a Bad Idea. The most recent episode was me explaining the plots of all 13 Kingdom Hearts games. It has two versions, the quick and done 90-minute one, or the final mix, which is a little over 2 hours and contains some, like, conspiracy theory speculation on the future of the franchise.
You didn't mention the Kingdom Hearts for the true endings in Variety Minute.
I guess I didn't.
Anyways.
Well, those aren't true endings. Those are secret endings.
Okay, they're different. All right, my bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on, get with the program.
Okay.
We also will be having, like we mentioned, that spin-off show. It's going to be called Oops, All Cutscenes, where we are joined by Calvin of the Twin Geeks to talk about some double feature video game movie adaptations. The first episode will be on 1995's Mortal Kombat and 2006's Silent Hill.
That's so exciting. I wonder how that episode will go.
I wonder as well.
And are we plugging anything else? Did we just plug ourselves this entire time? I'm so proud of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's time we had like just an us episode,
I agree. 100%. And that's why we're downhill.
If you want us to plug you, add us on the Twin Geeks Discord.
That's right. That's right. What's our next game, Murph?
In our next game, we're going to space. We're rocketing off to a doomed ship called the Ishimura, and we will be talking about the classic survival horror, Dead Space.
You have not played this game before, in any circumstance.
I have not.
Are you excited?
I'm a little excited. I think, I've got my horror chops about me now, more than I would have, like, in 2009. So I'm interested for some tactile dismemberment.
There you go.
We also will have a guest, won't we, Brogan?
Yeah. Aridin, who is a YouTuber. I've known him for a bit. We are buddies. So, yeah. And he's also, I think, unironically, he is the most gamer guest we've had. Like, he's played, like, he's our age, and he's played, like, shit like Call of Duties. Like, he was in that era. So, like, he was perfectly the target audience for Dead Space. That's exciting.
Right on, right on. Well, dear listener, if you think we have jumped the shark this episode or any other, let us know down in the comments. And keep on loving yourself.
Game. I want to play like a shark game.
A shark game?
Yeah.
Like Jaws for the NES?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we can look at shark games and then have a variety minute. Would you settle for like a piranha game?
No.
No?
What?
Okay. Any particular like breed of shark?
We're fading out. We faded out.
Is there a street shark game? Actually, no. That's.
I don't know. I don't think there is. There's Battletoads. Is Battletoads not enough for you?
Is there a game where the protagonist is named Shark? There is a Street Shark game for the Genesis. I'll be dimmed.
That's what I'm talking about. I want to play that game.
I should probably stop recording.